Hi there, this is Ranjit and I have the OnePlus 2 with me, and I have been testing this device for almost 25 days. So I was in no hurry to produce this review, and believe me, I have spent considerable time with this device. So I'll be sharing my experiences in this video, and this video can be a little bit long because I want to cover a lot of aspects. So in the YouTube show notes I'll have what you say timestamps so that you can jump to a particular area. And in fact, the OnePlus team likes to call this OnePlus 2 the flagship killer for 2016, and we'll find out if that's really true in this review. First, let me start with the design aspect. And I would say, though it has still that 5.5-inch screen, the build quality has changed considerably. Now, it is enclosed in this magnesium metal alloy, and it gives sort of a premium feel to the device. But the other con with that is, I feel the weight distribution is not that great. Though it weighs just 175 grams, which is not very heavy, but the phone simply just feels a little bit heavy. And in fact, I have given this phone to some of my cousins who already have the OnePlus One, and after 5 minutes they also said that the phone felt a little bit heavy. So it's slightly top heavy to my liking. And in fact, now the new additions with the OnePlus 2 is that we have a 13 megapixel camera, which is a different sensor, but now we have the laser autofocusing system, and also we have the fingerprint sensor and the alert slider. I'll talk about all these aspects later on. And now, before we proceed, let me give you a quick specs overview of the OnePlus 2. This OnePlus 2 is powered by the Snapdragon 810 chipset, which is an octa-core processor divided into two quad cores. The first high-performance quad core is based on the ARM Cortex-A57 architecture, and the other quad core is based on the ARM Cortex-A53. The GPU is the powerful Adreno 430 GPU. It comes in two storage capacities, 64 gigabytes or the 16 gig version. The 64 gigabyte version comes with 4 gigs of RAM, whereas the 16 gig version comes with 3 gigs of RAM. It has a 5.5-inch screen, which is a 1080p screen, and it has Gorilla Glass 4 protection. Moving towards the camera, it has a 13 megapixel camera with laser autofocus system and a front 5 megapixel camera. Moving towards the battery, it's a sealed battery with a 3300 milliamp hour battery. Now, moving to the processor used, and quite a few of you had asked me about this. This OnePlus 2 has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 810 chipset, which is octa-core chipset. And again, it was not that famous because it was exhibiting some heating issues. But the OnePlus 2 team has underclocked it. It's now clocked at 1.8 gigahertz. And I would say in normal usage scenarios, it does not exhibit any overheating, but certainly it does get a little bit warm. For example, when I was just using this phone over 4G for about 7-8 minutes doing casual browsing, etc., the phone felt a little bit warm. Not hot, just warm. One thing I did notice is that the phone does not feel that hot at the back, but due to this metal casing, if you touch that metal casing, it does feel fairly warm. And in fact, I did also some gaming with this, and with extended gaming, I would say it touched around 43 to 44 degrees centigrade. So yes, it does get warm, but not very hot in my opinion. Now, if we move to the software that is used, this OnePlus 2 has Oxygen OS 2.1 out of the box. It's very close to stock Android experience that you get. But again, I feel the software is a little bit lacking in some features. For example, we don't even have a proper gallery app, or even when we move to the camera app, the camera options are very basic. Though the hardware provided, the camera hardware is really good. It has a laser autofocusing system, optical image stabilization. But I feel in terms of the camera software, it's just too basic. Also, I feel that the software has to really improve. I noticed some bugs here and there with the software. Sometimes the widgets were going off, but with the latest updates, OnePlus team has solved a lot of issues. So I feel with the future OTA updates, the software experience can be improved. But as of now, I still feel the software is not that polished. And certainly if you're coming from the Cyanogen OS that was used on the earlier OnePlus One, you'll feel the software experience to be a little bit on the lacking side. Yes, the Oxygen OS does provide us a few customization. For example, we still have the options to go with the virtual buttons or the physical buttons. Even you can swap the physical buttons like I did. So all those options are there, and you can also actually do a little bit of customization with the themes, and you can even invert the button layout. So all those options are there, but still I would say in terms of software, OnePlus team needs to work and refine the same. But when we move to the general responsiveness of the system, the Oxygen OS handles the OnePlus 2 without any issues. I did not notice any lagginess when I was using the device, or even while multitasking, even jumping from one app to another app. Most of the time it never reloaded, and that's thanks to 4 gigabytes of RAM that we have on the OnePlus 2. So in terms of general performance, the overall performance of the device was very good and snappy, just like the OnePlus One. Now, if we move to the charging port, the OnePlus 2 has this new charging port, that is the USB-C type. And the good thing is that you can now insert the charging cable either way, this way or the other way, it does not matter. But again, I expected a lot more with the USB-C type. Internally, it's still running on USB 2 speed, so we don't have USB 3 speed if you are thinking that you'll get something like that. Also, again, as it's the special cable, you need adapters if you would like to use your old chargers with the same. And also another con is that it does not support fast charging like many of the flagship handsets do. So charging is a little bit slow compared to the other flagship. If you just completely shut off the phone from 0% to 100%, it can charge in about 2 hours 25 minutes. But again, nobody these days just charges the phone like that. You might be using the phone, so in those aspects, charging it fully might take around 2 hours 45 minutes. So definitely I do miss the fact that this does not have the wireless charging. Also, when we move to some of the other features that we generally find on flagship devices, those are also sort of missing. For example, we don't have NFC support, IR blaster. So these are some of the things that are missing. In fact, wireless charging is also not there. One thing is peculiar is that now this OnePlus 2, the back covers can be opened easily and they are actually swappable, and OnePlus team is making other back covers available and you can easily swap them with these ones, as you can see. But one annoying thing is that even if you replace the back covers, and it has these 2 points, but you cannot enable NFC or wireless charging. So those things are simply not there on the OnePlus 2. Now, if we talk about the battery is a 3300 milliamp hour battery, which is sealed inside. And initially I was not getting good battery life, but after the latest software upgrade I started to get good battery life, and as you can see it was at 16% and it lasted for almost a full working day. Almost, this is about close to about 20 odd hours of usage, and the screen on time that I got was about 4 hours. So the battery life has improved considerably, I would say, and if you're a sort of a casual user also, it can last for almost 2 full working days. As you can see, most of the time I was getting a screen on time of between 4 hours to 4.5 hours with my typical day's usage. And if you're sort of a casual user, it can last you for 2 full working days. This is with almost 48 hours of usage. As you can see, it was not heavily used, about 2 odd hours of screen on time. So definitely in terms of battery life, the battery life is above average. But again, if we start comparing it with the OnePlus One, the OnePlus One had about 15% better battery life compared to the OnePlus 2. Now, if we move to one more new feature found on the OnePlus 2, that is the fingerprint scanner. This is not that new. We have seen this in other devices like iPhone, the Samsung Galaxy S6, even Note 4, etc. And I would say the fingerprint scanner for the most part works very well. I would say when it works almost 95% of the time. But every other day, sometimes it just refuses to accept my finger input. And this happens every alternate day, I would say. And once if it does not recognize the finger input, it simply does not recognize even if I try 15 or 20 times. I think so it's a software bug that OnePlus needs to work. Again, I would say the fingerprint scanner is not 100% foolproof, and other phones also like the Galaxy S6 or even the iPhone 6. But again, if you try it multiple times, it works. But I think so there is a software bug. So I would say the fingerprint scanner works, but it can be frustrating at times. Also, when we talk about the home button, it is a little bit peculiar. I would say it's not a button itself. It's sort of a trackpad, I would say, and it's recessed. So it does take time to get used to it. Also, when you're tapping it, it gives you haptic feedback, but it's not instant. If you just tap and just quickly remove, sometimes it does not register. So you have to get used to this home button, in my opinion. Another feature that I like is this alert slider, and I think this is a brilliant move by OnePlus on the OnePlus 2. And I think so this feature should be there on almost every Android device. And I really like this device because I can, without even looking at the phone, I can just move the slider. By default, if you put it all the way down, you'll get all calls. But if you put on in the middle, it'll be priority calls. Let's say you're really busy, you can just go all the way up, and thereby it'll be in the do not disturb mode. And I really like this feature on the OnePlus 2, and that works perfectly. Now, if we move to the camera performance, in terms of camera hardware, the camera hardware is really powerful. It has a 13 megapixel shooter with a laser autofocusing system. And I would say if we start comparing it with the OnePlus One, the camera performance, particularly the rear facing camera, has been improved a lot, I would say. But again, in 4K video recording, I did notice that the focusing was always a little bit wobbly. It used to refocus a lot. And I noticed this in multiple 4K video recording. In terms of static shots, yes, it can take some very good static shots thanks to that optical image stabilization. Even in artificial light, it can take some decent shots. But again, if we again start comparing it with flagships like the Galaxy S6 or the LG G4, those have far better camera. But one disappointment that I have in the camera department is the front facing camera. Though the front facing camera can take good selfie shots, but when we talk about the video is restricted only to 720p, which is, I was just scratching my head. Why? Because even some entry-level Android phones that cost just around $150 can record full HD, that is 1080p video with the front-facing camera. But here, the front-facing camera video is restricted to only 720p. Now, if we move to the screen is still a 1080p screen. It's not a 2K screen, and I'm not that worried about it because with the 5.5-inch screen, 1080p, it still comes to 401 ppi, which is pretty sharp. But one thing that I have noticed is that the screen has a slightly yellowish tint. And if we start comparing it with the OnePlus One, the whites look a lot whiter on the OnePlus One, whereas on the OnePlus 2, they look a little bit on the yellowish side. But again, if we forget about that, the screen quality has improved a lot. Also in terms of brightness, the screen is a lot brighter. So in outdoor lighting conditions, it's more easily visible. And one more thing that I really like on this OnePlus 2 screen is that if you are like me who uses his phone at night while on the bed, the screen can go really low in brightness. Thus, it does not hurt your eyes, which was not there on the OnePlus One. So definitely the screen is an improvement, I would say. But again, if in terms of color accuracy, I feel the screen has a slightly yellowish tint. Now let's break down this device between the pros and the cons, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And let's start with the good things first. The first thing that I really liked is the new metallic design. It gives sort of a premium feel, but again, it adds a little bit of weight in my opinion. Next, again, if we talk about the back cover is easily user replaceable. So you can customize the OnePlus 2 if you would like to do that. Also in terms of battery life, the battery life that I was getting on the OnePlus 2 was above average if we start comparing it with most other flagship. For example, if we compare it with the Galaxy S6, Note 4 and even LG G4, certainly the battery life on the OnePlus 2 is far better compared to those devices. With the OnePlus 2, I could get a screen on time of about 4.5 hours with my typical day's usage, whereas on the S6, LG G4, I was hardly able to get about 3.5 hours. Even with the Note 4, I was able to get just about 4 hours. So definitely in terms of battery life, the battery life is good, and for most users it can last for a full working day. But again, if we start comparing it with the OnePlus One, I feel the battery life on the OnePlus One was slightly better. With the OnePlus One, I could get a screen on time of about 5 hours. Also, when we move to the camera department, as I mentioned earlier, the rear facing camera has been improved over the OnePlus One. And I really like the alert slider and also the fingerprint scanner. Lastly, regarding the Android experience, the Oxygen OS is very close to stock Android experience. So if you like that sort of experience, you'll really like the UI on the OnePlus 2. Now let's talk about some of the things that I do not like about the OnePlus 2, the bad. The first thing is about the in-hand feel. The phone just feels a little bit bulky. Though it weighs just 175 grams, I feel the balance of the weight is not that good. It just feels a little bit top heavy to my liking. I generally test a lot of phones and I just get used to almost any phone after 4-5 days of usage. But even after 3 weeks of usage, I do feel that the OnePlus 2 weight distribution is not that great in my opinion. Now if we move to the camera, the rear facing camera was good. But when we move to the front facing camera, though the selfie shots are nice, but in terms of video department, the video is restricted to only 720p, which is very disappointing, as the OnePlus calls this a flagship device. These days, some of the flagship devices with the front facing camera can record video up to 2K, whereas it's just restricted to 720p on the OnePlus 2. I hope the OnePlus team can fix this with the OTA update. Next, when we talk about the software, as I mentioned earlier, the software experience is not that refined. It's sort of a beta experience. In some areas, they really need to improve. For example, in terms of the camera app, they really need to add a lot more options. And also, I did find some bugs here and there in the UI. And again, I hope those will be fixed with the OTA update. But as of now, I would say the software experience, though it's fast and responsive, is not very much refined. I also miss the fact that the OnePlus 2 does not have NFC fast charging or the IR blaster. Also, though I like the feature that it has a USB-C port, but again, as it does not have fast charging, the charging is slightly on the slower side for a flagship device. Also, I really hate the invite system with the OnePlus 2. The invites are really hard to get on this device. So overall, I would say this device is really good. Now, let me break down this divide between the good, bad, and the ugly. The first good thing about this device is if we look at the price point and what you are getting, still I would say with the OnePlus 2, you are getting a lot for what you are paying. For $400, you are getting very good hardware and almost top-notch specs, apart from some of the niggling issues that I have mentioned in my cons. Next, I would say in the bad department, the software needs to be refined. It still does not offer the software experience that you would expect with a flagship device. Also, I do feel that the fast charging was one of the major missing points on this device, and I really missed that because it can take almost about 2 hours 40 to 45 minutes to charge the OnePlus 2, which is slow for a flagship device. Also, now if we talk about the ugly things about this device, as I mentioned earlier, it's the front facing camera. It's restricted to only 720p. And lastly, I would say the invite system just sucks. It's pretty difficult to get the invites. And lastly, I really hate the fact that the OnePlus team is calling the OnePlus 2 as the flagship killer for 2016, which I feel is simply not that true. In fact, I would say it's not even the flagship for 2015 because it misses some of the major things that we expect on a flagship. But certainly for the $400 price for the 64GB variant, we are still getting a very good phone. I've also posted other videos on the OnePlus 2 covering its other aspects like its in-depth camera review, gaming review. So if you are interested in those aspects, do make sure that you watch those videos also. I do hope that this video was helpful, and if you found this video was helpful, I'll appreciate if you can click the like button, and if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. This is Ranjit and I hope to see you in my next video.